Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, I'm going to show you yet another plotting library from Matplotlib this time, and it's going to be a sub-library like PyPlot, but for 3D, so for three-dimensional plots. Let's create a new code cell in our collab and we'll get started. So from MPL_toolkits is where we can find our plotting library. This is Matplotlib toolkits. We are going to import mplot3d. This is the sub-library. All right, and first I'm going to call pyplot.figure to instantiate a new figure. All right, we can store that in a variable. Then I am going to call pyplot.axes and specify the projection to equal 3D. This way pyplot knows that we want a 3D plot. We can store this as our figure axes. Okay, then we can grab our figure axes and we can call the function scatter3d to generate a three-dimensional scatter plot. Now for this, we have to pass in three arguments. We have to pass in here our x data, our y data, and our z data. So we need to specify this time the data we want for 3 dimensions, not just 2. All right, so I am going to create x data first. X data is going to be our data set at any of our columns. For example, we can do open. Y data, again, we can grab from our data set any column. For example, let's do high. Then z data, similarly, you can guess we need our data set at a column. For example, let's do adjusted closing price. All right, so that is going to generate for us a three-dimensional scatter plot. Look at this. Now you can see we have our scatter plot created, and this time we have the different dimensions. And we can label each of the columns. So where we created pyplot.figure, here we can actually pass in the different sizes that we want for our figures. We can pass in, well, the size, yes, as well as the title, the legend, as well as any labels we want, for example, on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. I can also just grab pyplot, so let's do that before we call the scatter3d function. And I'm going to call pyplot, and here I'm going to set the x label to open. Then I'll run my code cell. And we're going to see here, now on our x-axis, we have an open little name there. We can do the same for all of our axes. So pyplot.y label, that is high. Now for the z-axis, we can't set it here because pyplot is just two-dimensional, but we can set open and high. Then the z is just the last one. All right, so this gives us a three-dimensional representation, which can be useful for different projects depending on what your data set contains, because now we can actually visualize correlations not just between 2 of our features, but actually 3 at a time. And that's how you can create three-dimensional plots. They're not for every project, but for some projects for sure.